Hey, welcome to How To in a Few. Today we're going to take a look at how to change the front brake pads on a Chevy Traverse. Going to be the same on several other vehicles like the GMS Acadia and the Buick Enclave, plus probably a few more vehicles. So sometimes it gets a little crazy when you're the producer, cameraman, and star of the show. So let's take a look at our parts. This is going to reveal the brand name. We did get this from AutoZone. These are their Duralast Gold brake pads. Not the cheapest, not the most expensive ones either, but good quality ceramic brake pads, lifetime warranty. Comes with the hardware kits. And let's take a look at them. They do have the shim included on the back. That's going to prevent some of the squealing that you sometimes hear on brake pads. And then one side has the squealer, which once it rubs against the rotor produces a real high pitched noise. You probably heard that before. They'll let you know it's time to change the brakes. We are not currently at that point with the brakes that are on the car, but we're getting pretty close. And before we go on an extended drive, we're going to go ahead and make sure that our brakes are functioning at peak capacity. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is loosen the lug bolts. I like to do that when the car is still on the ground, because then the tires are actually being braced by the ground as opposed to the transmission. If you jack the car up first, then you'll be applying pressure against the wheel, the axle, and the transmission. So this way, depending on how tight they are, I know that I'm not potentially doing any damage to the transmission. Alright, you can see the car rocking, so that shows you that there is a considerable amount of force being used. Alright, here's our brake caliper assembly. We have two 1/2-inch bolts there. They're going to have to come undone. But I want, if you look here how far this caliper is extended, I want to bring this back some so that everything gets loose, so that when I pull it off that I don't run into any kind of friction with the brake pads. Normally I'll use a crowbar or something. If I can get in here without damaging the rotor, I like to pull this back. Let me go ahead and open up the brake fluid container, because that'll make it a little easier. Okay, with the brake fluid container open, it should allow some of that fluid to move back. Alright, looks like I'm not going to get too far. So by using the wrench and the hammer, I'm acting like an impact. These bolts are usually pretty tight. So rather than strip them, much shorter than I anticipated. Alright, here we can see how far the pistons are extended. That's going to be an issue trying to get them back in. And while we weren't beeping or squealing yet, the pads are dangerously close to the bottom. This one probably would have started squealing. Well, it still has a little ways. Alright, typically I compress by using a C-clamp, but these brakes are much larger than what I anticipated. Alright, we've got a couple of much larger C-clamps. This one might work. This one has a quick release, so we'll go ahead and maybe it'll be a quick release. It's supposed to anyway. So I'm trying to be extra careful that I don't drop the caliper, because the only thing connected still is the brake line, and I don't want to put any undue stress on the brake line. So I'm going to gradually crank in. I don't really like the way that it's doing one side and not the other. Alright, since this is the first time I'm doing this vehicle, I'm not going to quite go all the way back with the calipers. I'm afraid that I might damage these rubber boots, because most of the time the piston retracts all the way into the housing. But as I said, I don't know this car, so we will go ahead and leave it as it is for now and see if our brake pads will fit. Several pieces of hardware here. Okay, 4 pieces, so safe to assume 1 for each side. And I'm going to make sure that it goes in the exact same way, because there's a slight difference. one thing we failed to do was notice where the screamer was. I'm pretty sure the screamer, this lip here, was on the outside pad. But I'm going to go ahead and look on the other side and see if I can determine that. Okay, the screamer was on the outside pad. So the new pad new pads will go in like this. And now we can test to see if our pistons are far enough in. Yeah. And you see that our caliper is going back on easily, so we know they're on there. The pistons are pushed back far enough, and we didn't damage any of the boots, so we should be good. So, can you see who it is?
Hey, I'm sorry, I think I'm in the wrong house.
Okay. Alright, so now that I know everything's going to go back together right, there are a few things that I like to do. It is not, wow, the brake pads are clicked in place. So we're going to skip that. Typically I like to grease up these riders, but these boots look really good and they are sliding freely. I can feel the grease in, so I guess we are good. Now I will grease the tip of these bolts just slightly into the threads so that they don't seize up. Worst thing is the next time you come do the brakes and you can't get stuff loose. Now, if you're doing this, you'd want to put a torque wrench on those screws. Look up the correct torque and make sure that they are tightened adequately. It is hot. Whew. All right, believe it or not, this side is already done. I would imagine for safety, even though we have a support underneath, I'm gonna go ahead and straighten the wheel and put the tire back on. you should always thread your lugs back on by hand. One of the worst jobs to do is to change the stud after you've cross-threaded, snapped, or broke. The wheel lug. Alright, I have the lugs pretty much tight. Because I am doing an oil change after this, I'm not going to lower the car yet, and I'll have to do a retightening once we let the car down. Alright, here we are on the other side. Alright, whew. Great thing about doing all this stuff in the summer is how nice and warm it is when you're doing it. So that's the front brake pads on the Traverse, lambda body, GM car. Didn't tighten down the lugs yet or lower the car because we're going to do an oil change too. That's going to be a separate video though after this one. But this video is done. So there, if you need to do the front brakes on your lambda body GM, Traverse, Acadia, or Enclave, that should have helped you out. If it did, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel because that helps me out a lot. As usual, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.